We're gonna dive into a different sport today, beach volleyball or volleyball, mainly because I had something come out of left field. I had an Olympic athlete, Miles Parton, our USA beach volleyball player, reach out to me and wanted to go over biomechanics on how he hits the ball. And it was really cool because it allowed me to dive into another skill, another movement, and use biomechanical principles and see how universal that is to what we even do here in baseball. So I wanna go over what they do really well.
So just like throwing athletes, we're gonna watch the first movement when you're spiking is the jump or the ground force, where you generate that potential energy that you're gonna move through the body and potentially into the ball. Throwing athlete typically stays more connected to the ground than the volleyball player who's less connected, mainly because more of the ground force is vertical. When throwing, it's a little bit more shear force or linear force. Into the jump, now that that ground force is in the body, is going to be a kinetic sequence of energy going through the hip, through the trunk, through the arm, just like you do with throwing athletes. But initially, because the legs aren't stabilized on the ground, the back leg will bend to help stabilize the back hip and push it forward. So now the trunk can torque or load. It can extend back and it can rotate sideways, which you see with both these volleyball players here. Things like hip to shoulder separation, which is really important. Throwing athletes is also important here for volleyball players, and that means when the hips are forward, you want the shoulders to turn back. But because we also have trunk extension, we can now really amplify energy through the trunk, just like we do when we throw, where we're gonna accelerate trunk rotation, and then we're gonna accelerate trunk flexion. And then as the upper body goes to rotate to hit the ball, if you watch the front leg, it will start to kick back to help the trunk go into flexion. And you can see that on both of them. Front leg comes forward and then the trunk goes into flexion. You can see as far as with the arms and the path of the arms, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get trunk tilt, what we call contralateral trunk tilt, where the trunk lifts up to the arm side and drops down to the non-hitting arm side. You get a lean of the trunk. So if we were directly behind the athletes, we would actually see the trunk leaning to the left with the right-handed arm swings. And to do that, you can see their non-hitting arm aggressively comes down as their hitting arm goes up, and that creates the trunk tilt. If you didn't do that, what would happen is you would just reach up with your arm and you would have to go into a high abducted position. And that can be hard on the scaps. We know specifically with throwing athletes, if the elbow's really abducted and we're trying to rotate the shoulder, there's a better chance that we can be in an impingement position, and then that can be a lot more wear and tear on the shoulder. So if we can get into that contralateral tilt, the elbow doesn't have to really abduct much over the shoulder, and now the arms can actually get in more upper arm rotation